Hey guys, we're going to finish off our drop 2 voice leading exercises here. We're now looking at the 5 and the root on top as we descend down a fifth to the root. We're going to target a G chord on the top set of strings with the root on top this first time. G is preceded by its 5, a D7. With root on top of the G, the D is going to be a 5 on top. These chords will have the D in common. The A, in theory, is going to resolve down to a G. The F sharp in the progression resolves up to the root, but the way we're going to look at it, because it's going to be a G major 7, the F sharp will actually be in common. So Ds and F sharps are in common. The C of a D7 will resolve down a half step to the B in the G chord, and the 9 would, in theory, go down to the G. However, as you know, with the root on top, we're not going to land on the G major 7, but we're going to put a 9 on it. So in fact, they've got another note in common, that A note, which is the 9 of the G chord. So D7 has A and D, that's the 5 and the 1, and then the flat 7 and 3, C and F sharp. That will become an A and D in the G chord. The F sharp remains as well, and the C becomes a B. So D7 to G9. The D is preceded by the chord 5 above it, the A. So the 2 chord of the key resolves to the 5, resolves to the 1. The A is going to be root on top. The D has an A on top, so there's the A note, and the C note of the A chord and the D chord will have an E and a G as well in the A. So A minor 7, root on top, resolves to D7, resolves to G9. The E resolves to the A. Both chords again have 2 notes in common, which is basically the definition of voice leading. They both have an E and a G. That's the flat 3 in the E chord. It was the flat 7 in the A. It's the root in the E chord here, the E, which was the 5 in the A. So E minor 7 has the E and the G, and a B and a D. 5 and flat 7 resolves down to an A, to a D7, to a G9. The B minor 7 at the 7th fret resolves to the E minor 7, the same way that A resolved to the D7, which resolved to the G. Before the B minor, I'm going to throw in the 7 chord. So F sharp is a half diminished chord. You know this from when we did 5s on top. F sharp and C, that's root and flat 5, the tritone. Then you have the flat 7, then you have the flat 7, the E, and the flat 3, the A. F sharp to B, to E minor, to A minor, to D7, to G9. And just for completeness now, I decided why not put in the 4 chord. So C is up here, 8, 8, 9, and 10. With a B on the bottom, it would be a C major 7. But that's got that crunch again, so we put the 9 on it. So C major 9 is the 4 chord. I might as well come from a G right now. So here's a G major with the 5 on top, to the C major 9, to the F sharp half diminished, B minor, E minor, A minor, D7, and G. That's if I'm resolving at the end from a 5 on top to a root on top. Anywhere along the line I could be resolving from a 5 on top to a root on top, or a root on top to a 5 on top. That's how the whole progression was working. F sharp is 5 on top, resolving to root on top. E is 5 on top, A is root on top, D is 5 on top, G is root on top. So were I ending, for instance, on C, I could have had a D minor, which would look just like E minors, but 2 frets lower. G7, resolving to C. So the pattern would be identical. We would just start somewhere else in the pattern so that the ending chord could have a 5 on top, preceded by its own 5 that had a root on top. So that's the key of G, or if we want to continue, it's the key of C. Let's go on the next set of strings. Just so I'm ending in roughly the same area, I'm going to do it in D. So I have D, A, that's root and 5, F sharp and C sharp, 3 and 7. So there's our D major 7 we're landing on, but we're going to make it a 9. The 5 that comes before it is A, with a 5 on top. So A and E on top, C sharp and G on the bottom. There's the 5 with the 5 on top, to the root with the root on top. The problem is I'm leaving the 9 here, so you're not hearing the root resolve. There it is. There's your D. So that was A7 to D9. The E minor 7 is built on this root on the second set of strings, second string, E, B, 1, 5, flat 3, flat 7, E, B, G, D. Voice leading from E minor, 2 notes in common, to the A7, to the D9, 3 notes in common, E, A, D. Prior to the E, we need a B chord. There's your B on the 4th fret, 3rd string. Its 5 is the F sharp. It's going to be minor, so here's its flat 7, and it's hard to reach flat 3, this D note. That maintains itself into the E though. So D and B are held in common as we go into E minor, A7, D9. There's your B minor. It came from an F sharp minor. F sharp minor and E minor look the same. So this movement we've been doing is going to duplicate itself. Here's the F sharp, root 5, C sharp, flat 3A, flat 7E, resolving to a B minor, to E minor, A7D. C sharp in this key is half diminished, so we have a G instead of a G sharp in it. So there's my flat 5 on the C, flat 7, and the flat 3. C sharp half diminished, F sharp minor, B minor, E minor, A7, D9. And again, to complete, I'm going to throw this G major 9 on here. So here's the G, D, and B, a nice G triad, but it's got major 7 on the bottom, so they make it a 9. So G major 9 is the 4 chord, C sharp half diminished is the 7, resolving to the 3, the F sharp, to the 6, the B minor, to the 2, the E minor, to the 5, to the D. Once again, if I want to resolve to a 5 on top, this E then, instead of being a minor 7, could have been a dominant 7, landing on an A major 7. It still would have been preceded by a B minor, to E7, to A major 7. B minor still would have been preceded by F sharp minor. In this key, that's the 6. 6 to E7 is 5, and A is 1. So it doesn't matter whether you're resolving with the root on top or the 5 on top. The progression is the same. Roots and 5s are still alternating on the top 2 notes, 3s and 7s alternating on the bottom. And let's move to our last set of strings. I've prepared it in A. So we have this A chord, A and E, root 5, the C sharp over here. You've seen A's over C sharps, but the major 7 on the bottom. Again, we want to disguise that tension, so we put a 9 on here. It's actually going to be a 4, which is the B note. Before the A9, we need an E7. So that would be a 5 and a root, a flat 7, and a 3. There's your E7, G sharp, D, E root, and 5 on top. You can hear that that would like to go to that A, but this B is going to remain in our A chord as a 9. So we don't hear as much resolution just because of the 9. If this is an A major, then the B minor would have the flat 3 and flat 7. There's your B minor chord, B, F sharp, D, and A, going into an E7, going into an A major 9. F sharp minor is 2 frets up from the E chord, F sharp and C sharp, E again the flat 7, A is the flat 3. We saw that from this F sharp, same notes. F sharp, C sharp, A, E. Now we have C sharp, F sharp, E, A. Those notes are all reversed. the F sharp minor to the B minor 7 to the E7 to the A major 9. F sharp minor, C sharp minor. C sharp, the 5 of F sharp will resolve down. It will look just like your B minor 7, but 2 frets higher. So C sharp minor 7 to F sharp minor 7 to B minor 7 to E7 to A9. Once again, I'm going to use half diminished for the 7 chord. That's resolving a 5th to the C sharp, but it's a tritone from the 4 chord. So here then we have a D sharp as the 5, the G sharp as the root. The B is the flat 3 on the bottom, but the flat 7 is the F sharp over here. So flat 7, so minor 7 flat 5, or half diminished on the G sharp, to C sharp minor, to F sharp minor, to B minor, to E7, to A major 9. And finally, let's do the D major 9. That's a 4 chord. Actually, while I'm here, I might as well throw the A in here. So A major 7, 5 on top, to the D major 7 turned into a 9 with the root on top, to the G sharp half diminished, C sharp minor, F sharp minor, B minor, E7, and A major 9. One more time from the A. Here's our root chord with the 5 on top, to the 4 chord with the 9 on top, to the half diminished 7 chord, C sharp minor, F sharp minor, B minor, E dominant 7, A9, and there's your sound of your A chord. So they're all resolving the same way. 5s and roots are flipping, 3s and 7s are flipping on the bottom of the chord. If you've got a root on top, you're resolving to a 5 on top. If you've got 3 on top, you're resolving to a 7 on top, and in each case vice versa. So that's it for our voice leading with the descending fifths in scale tone 7s. Next we'll put them together in a song. Take her easy guys, and I'll catch you later. Bye for now.